What do CEOs need to know about sales these days? A lot. Outdated sales strategies and tactics plague most companies today. Listen to what innovative CEOs and experts have to say about how to change all that with Sales Talk for CEOs. Great to have you here on Sales Talk for CEOs. I have a wonderful guest today. Sales leadership is the topic of the day. You hear me talk about great sales leaders and how important it is to your company to make sure you have great sales leaders, because that is truly the key to having peak performing salespeople. A lot of times we just think it's the sellers. We need to train them. They need to do better. We need to fire them. But without great sales leadership, you won't get where you want to be, because good is not good enough, not in this economy or any economy. So to all of the CEOs listening, I know some of you actually even are still managing your own sales teams directly. Developing sales leadership skills, developing sales leaders is crucial. And there's been lots written about it, but today I'm talking to an expert who has a little bit of a different take. The author of Happy Sales Manager and president of Braveheart Sales Performance, my friend Gretchen has spent 14 years or more making sure that sellers can sell and leaders can lead in any economy. Gretchen Gordon, welcome to my show.
Thanks, Alice. I'm thrilled to be here.
Well, you and I have a lot to talk about today, and I'm sure we could talk for hours, so I will have to watch the clock. But both of us are very focused on the great impact that sales leadership can make, and especially in a changing economy. So I'm excited to talk to you about that today. So let's start with, what are you hearing? What are the economists telling us? What do we need to look out for?
Yeah, and I don't know why this is the case, but I've been listening to a lot of economists lately, I guess because they're, rampant out there. And consistently from different areas of the country and different levels of economists seem to be gelling around this concept that 2024 is going to be either flat or down, maybe. I know we've been hearing about a recession coming for, it seems like, ages, but there may be some softening in the marketplace in 2024. After 2024, there's a prediction that things will go up, and we'll have some boom times again. And it just makes me think about the fact that, if you take into consideration what happened during the pandemic, which was weird, and there are many sectors of the economy that were focused on physical office locations and things like that, that were obviously harmed to some degree, or faced some slowdowns. But by and large, because of that, and because of the supply chain problems, it seems that most everybody has gone through the process of increasing prices over the last couple of years, 3 years, which is totally appropriate because there was a supply and demand issue. Um, so it makes me wonder if some companies are masking their growth with this price increase, as opposed to, so it looks like, sales are really up because we increased prices, or did they actually add new logos? Have they, added a lot of new customers? And
Or
certainly
have
we would
they
hope that.
retained business and grown that as well?
Yes, exactly. And so I just think about, we don't know what the future holds. We don't know, if the economists are right or whatever. We've been hearing about a recession for years, but it makes me think that CEOs really need to probably not just assume that things are going to continue in the same fashion if they had a good 2023, and need to think about their sales growth from the perspective of being prepared for any economy,
Yeah,
whether it's
yeah.
great, flat, or
I think
down.
contingency planning is so important. And honestly, I mean, you and I are both old enough to have ridden some of these waves, right? I guess I'll speak for myself, but um, I
I'm
definitely
right
have
there with you.
I've seen some ups and downs, no doubt. And the thing is, though, that I think CEOs need to realize that some of the people who work for them, salespeople and sales leaders, may not be old enough to remember some of those crazy times that we've had in the last 3 years. Now, of course, pretty much anybody who is selling right now or who is a sales leader has probably been through the pandemic and saw how crazy that was. But that was a different kind of crazy than, let's say, 2008, right? And I believe that if we are forward thinking and paying attention and really truly getting our team ready to be great in any economy, we can do it, right? It's just that when we forget or we think it's not going to hit us or, you know, I don't know, whatever, we're just not looking forward and believing, that things can be changing, that we get ourselves in trouble. So, what are some of the key things, Gretchen, that CEOs need to know?
Yeah, so they need to, first of all, your point is really well taken about, what is the tenure or how long has your sales team, salespeople on your team, sales leaders, how long have they been in the workforce? How long have they been in sales? And if they haven't, and we all have short memories. So even if they lived through the recession, we need to be thinking about, what is it that we wish we'd done differently leading up to the recession. So just a little side note, you mentioned that I started my business Braveheart in 14 years ago, which was 2009, and on the heels of the Great Recession. And what we found more than anything was that salespeople were complacent and we're just dealing with existing clients and trying
Mhm.
to continue to add to them. Now obviously, depending on the structure of your sales organization, that might be someone's primary role is to take care of existing accounts. But even the people who supposedly were going out and getting new logos as well got real fat and happy because it was a boom time leading up to that recession. And so when the larger clients pulled back from, expanding, needing more services from what ended up being our clients, the salespeople were caught, kind of off guard. And so I guess what I would say is for a CEO, they need to be thinking about, are the sales leaders prepared with contingency plans? What are the sales leaders' plans to address a potential slowdown? And what are they doing to ensure that their sales team can get a bigger piece of the pie, regardless of what's going on in the economy? That would be number one.
Yeah, I think that really what happens is maybe the CEO is thinking about these things and forward looking, but maybe the sales leaders aren't. And certainly the sales team isn't, right? The sales team is just really waiting for you to give them their comp plan, for the new year. And sometimes we don't do that till March, unfortunately. And they're just waiting to hear what their quota is going to be so they can figure out if they're going to go out and crush it or not. So I think that along those veins, we really have to get the whole team prepared and leveled up. We don't want to be doomsdayers, naysayers, the ones that are, always worried, right? But what we want to say is, hey, here's what we know. A couple of years we had this COVID thing. Last year was pretty good. Coming into the new year, what do you see? What do you hear? What do you think? Start having conversations with your customers. Ask them what they're predicting. Ask them that what they're seeing. What are their sales goals for the year? That's going to tell you a lot, because if you know what their goals are for the year, and if they're saying flat, well, that means their cash flow is going to be flat, and that means they're not going to be spending as much. So, I think as CEOs, we can prepare our sales leaders and our sales teams to start having some conversations that'll tip us off early about what's going to happen in the marketplace. But I know you'll agree with this, but I really think there's a couple of things that CEOs need to keep their sales leaders focused on. One, of course, is getting new logos, but new logos isn't everything. But when we think about new logos, we need to think about, like you said, more market share. So let's dive into that in a second. The second thing they need to think about is retention. So retention is really important in a down economy or a funky economy. Things are changing and we're not sure what's going on. We need to retain, right? And we forget that sometimes. And we just think, oh, people are going to renew. But maybe they're not. And maybe we need to add more value than ever in order to retain them. And then the third piece is really growth, right? So it's growth of those existing customers, which along with that can lead back to getting new logos, because as our customers buy more from us and are more successful with what we've sold them, they become more and more loyal, and that leads them to making referrals that lead to our new logos. So it's a loop that we really need to maintain, those three things, getting new logos, retaining business, and growing the business that we have. All right, let's dive into the first one: new logos in an ever-changing economy. What should CEOs be aware of when they start telling their sales leaders, hey, here's the goal we need to set for getting new logos this year?
They need to not allow any excuses. And what I mean by that is we see it a lot in organizations where salespeople are out there trying to sell, and they hear one client or one prospect say, "Oh, we're holding right now. We're not going to be buying anything new right now." So they assume that uh-oh, we're doomed, and we are just at the we're at the mercy of what's going on in the marketplace. Sales leaders also have a tendency to do this and make excuses for their salespeople not being able to, grow new business. So CEOs need to not accept any excuses. And it's easy to get sucked into and say, oh yeah, they're working really hard, but there isn't, that there's just not as much opportunity out there right now. People aren't buying, companies are pulling back, whatever it might be. Um, the
Now
CEO
stop
needs to really
accepting excuses and make a plan. Like, yep,
yeah,
you're right. The economy's kind of funky right now. Yep, you're right. People are not buying right now.
yep.
Yep, some people have a doomsday attitude. Yep, not disagreeing with any of it. What's the plan?
Exactly. What are you gonna do differently to, still achieve the goal? And, that's sometimes, salespeople and sales leaders alike don't necessarily wanna hear, "You might need to work harder," or, "You might need to do things differently than you've done them in the past." So, you're exactly right, Alice. Just, CEO needs to not accept the excuses and then say, "Okay, I get it. This is what it is. What are you gonna do differently?"
And yeah, and I would say do differently is probably the most important thing. And I think that marketing, sales, and customer success need to team up on this. What are we going to do differently? How will we differentiate ourselves from our competitors? Because many companies are still going to buy, and they're going to buy from someone in our competitive field. Why not have it be us? So that's where the planning should come in. CEOs need to make sure that their teams can speak the value to customers, can differentiate themselves, can show people how awesome they are. And I read a great book recently that I've just been touting all over the place, Gretchen. It's called Obviously Awesome by April Dunford. Have you read it yet?
I haven't read it, but I've heard of it.
Well, I'll tell you what, you will love it. You will soak it up. You will Love every word, because April's talking about positioning. And when we are better positioned, no matter what the market brings, we get more market share. So that's really important when we're hearing things like the market is changing, things are happening out there, right? It's even more important to have CEOs re-look at their positioning, work with sales, marketing, and customer success together to look at the positioning, listen to what the sellers are saying, think about who they're comparing your company and your products to, and make those changes so you can differentiate yourself in the marketplace, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is that if you think about it this way, the competitors that you have in the marketplace are, they have the same situation you have. So if you can rally the troops, so to speak, to, not just get sucked into, oh, it's so hard and it's going to be difficult and people aren't buying and companies are pulling back, et cetera. If you can wipe that away from the thought process, you will be in a better position to get more market share. You have to think about it. If the market is stable, steady, not growing, well, then you have to get a bigger piece of the pie. If the pie is the same size, right, you have to continue to grow, you got to get a bigger piece of it.
Same size or
And
smaller, you have to get a bigger piece.
exactly. That's exactly what I was just going to say. So that's really the mentality that a CEO needs to bring to bear and hold, the leaders responsible for maybe managing behaviors differently. What are they going to do to make sure that the sellers are actually embracing and doing what they need to do? And so CEO needs to hold leaders accountable to having a plan, not accepting excuses, and what are they going to do differently, and what are their sellers going to do differently
Yeah.
to grow?
Along the differently lines also, I think too many leaders overlook the power of referrals. When I say referral, I mean someone who knows and loves you, whether they buy from you or whether maybe they're a partner of yours, but they know of your work, they know how great you are, and they can speak to that, right? When they actually introduce you to someone. And I think that when the economy gets a little crazy, I mean, we should always be doing this, but even more so, stop relying on cold outreach. Do it differently. Start relying on those loyal customers making introductions for you. Start relying on partners making introductions for you, and figure out not just how to differentiate your product, but how to differentiate the way you sell so that it's even better.
Yep, exactly. I agree completely. You made me just think of something that, with regard to what we've gone through over the past few years, and I made the statement that most companies have probably raised their prices, which they should have. It becomes even more important if prices have gone up, that we are differentiating to a greater degree and demonstrating the value that's provided.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So that's getting new logos, right? A bit about that. All right. Let's talk about what leaders can do about retention and what CEOs should hold them accountable for.
Yeah, so it's not that much different. It's the same premise as new logos. It's being granular about what are the behaviors that you want to see out of your team to make sure that you are retaining the customer. And it's not just the check-in, but what's the quality of those conversations? Not just, oh, I'm touching my customers on a regular basis, or I'm, I've got my clients, prioritized ABC or something like that. And so I'm going to talk to the A clients every month and the B clients every quarter and the C clients twice a year, whatever it is. That is a given. What we really need to be thinking about is, what are the quality of what's the quality of the conversations that you're having? What are you trying to find out, and what are you trying to provide to the client? So again, getting back to your point, Alice, about differentiating. Okay, well, differentiate how you interact with your clients compared to what other providers might do, and talk about what do you need to do to actually create value in the eyes of the client. And it's not probably just, like the calls that we all get from, I'll just use a bad example, from our banks that, they want to talk to us, and right, and it's like, I know why you want to talk to me. Like, what are you offering me to, an enticement to call you back?
Well, I agree. And I think that in this day and age, especially, we have to measure our our own success on our customer success, right? So I just don't want a list of customers. I want a list of successful customers because they're referenceable, which again leads back to people who will say great things about us, make introductions for us, buy more from us, right? So if I think about the success of my customer being the most important, I will retain the customers who have success using what we sold them. And because of that, they hit their own goals, right? If my customer isn't having success, or if they aren't fully utilizing all of the features of the product that could make them even more successful, or if they have low user adoption, for example, when it comes time to renew, it's not going to happen. So we have to get way ahead of that and make sure that our onboarding is great, that our ongoing training and communication and value adding is great, right? And that they are successful using what we sold them. And I just think too many times we let this list of customers we have, we have thousands of customers or whatever, be the measure, instead of we have thousands of successful customers who meet their goals because of what we sold them. So I think that CEOs need to make sure they're talking to customers, not every single one, obviously, but that they're in touch with some of the most strategic, most important customers and listening to them and understanding how they've become successful using what has been sold to them. And they need to make sure the sales leaders are staying close to the customers, and the sales people or account managers, customer success, whoever's assigned to listen and hear, are they being successful at what we sold them? The CEOs need to stay tuned into that. And I think we lose sight of that too often, because we're so focused on getting new logos, right?
I agree. And you make me think of another thing, which is, um, we talk about this, my company talks about helping salespeople grow from being peddlers to pals to peers or partners. So going from someone who's trying to sell something for their own benefit to being someone who the customer likes a lot, to being someone that the customer trusts and respects and would call for their advice. And I think sometimes CEOs don't recognize that they, because of who they are, if they founded the company, because of their title, have that natural partner relationship with, like you said, the largest clients, customers that they might come in contact with.
Right. Well, their title
But
allows it, right? Of course, my
exactly,
CEO will talk to your CEO, or my general manager will talk to your CEO. Salespeople don't have that
right.
CEO effect, shall we say, right?
Exactly. So if you want to, this is one area that CEOs could really think about in terms of retaining customers, exactly what you said. Listen to what the successful customers are doing. And then also, I mean, I think you need to do a debrief of, okay, so we worked with these customers, but they weren't as successful as they would have liked to have been. Is there something that we could do differently? So obviously the
Right.
let's review, but also what needs to happen to help the salespeople and even sales leaders in a lot of cases grow that gravitas, or have that executive presence, and be willing to even challenge customers about their assumptions on things, so that they they become valuable. That's really the
Yeah.
key to retaining, right? Is helping your customers become more successful and having those relationships that it's more like a peer or a partner as opposed to a peddler or a vendor.
Yeah, let's dig into that because I think it's so important. And I think that we provide a lot of training to salespeople. You know, good
Mhm.
sales leaders go to their CEOs and say, this is what our salespeople need. You know, they need to learn how to handle objections. They need to learn how to close. They need to, well, guess what? Those are all sales skills that are not as necessary when you're a peer or a partner than when you are seen as less than and doing more of a transactional sale. When I'm
Yep.
your peer or partner, we're having a conversation, we're collaborating, I'm guiding you to make a good decision, but we're not teaching these skills to our sellers. So when your sales leaders come to you this year and say, "Hey, this is what we need to train our salespeople on," you as the CEO need to ask better questions. Do they really need these kind of basic skills, or do we need to level them up to understand a day in the life of the people they're talking to so that they can really have a conversation? Do we need to teach them how to bring a group of buyers to consensus so when they get into the thick of it, they can really guide that group? Do we need to teach them basic business acumen? I mean, really, what do your sellers know about the companies they're selling to and the industry that those companies are in and how they are positioned and how they compete? Because knowing that makes you more of a peer and better able to have high quality conversations. But we're not teaching sellers those things. We're not teaching them to be a guide, to have that business acumen. What does it look like to be a peer or a trusted advisor that someone comes to and asks questions? So, if you really want to level up your team, yeah, basics are good for beginners, no doubt. But they also need this other level of training and it should be ongoing. And especially for your more senior people who've been there a while, make sure they've got what they need. Like you said, the gravitas to have a serious conversation and even challenge a senior leader when their thinking isn't right to help guide them towards making a good decision.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And we address it, so it's two things that skill set of like all the things you said, business acumen, et cetera. Sometimes it also comes down to an individual's mindset. So much training occurs, like you said, the tactical skill sets. Overcoming objections, and sales leaders might do a good job of that. Maybe because they've been around a while and they're respected and they're more of a peer or partner with their customers than salespeople might be. But we tend to want to just tell people, say this, do this, operate this way, and expect that they'll be able to do it. But frequently their mindset gets in the way. They don't have the confidence to talk at that peer or partner level.
Yeah,
They don't
that
have
confidence is
right.
definitely lacking, and the only way really
Mhm.
to get that is to practice, and I'll tell you something, Gretchen, that I think people don't really think about. You know, as the CEO, you have people in your company that do that job or are at that level that could practice with your salespeople so that they could gain the confidence, and for some reason, that's, like, not even a thing.
You're exactly right. Well, and I think it's because people just don't think about it. A CEO is a CEO frequently because they have confidence, they maybe came with it, maybe they came up through the ranks. They are a figure it out kind of person, they can, if they don't know it, they can figure it out. And so frequently CEOs project onto the rest of the organization that everybody's like them, and they're not. And they might not be able to figure it out. They might not, they might need more guidance. They might need more practice. And you're exactly right. You probably have a whole C-suite of individuals that salespeople could practice on to connect in the right way. And you're right. Most organizations don't do that.
I
So
mean, what could
it's
be
great.
more important, right? I know everybody's busy, everybody's got so much to do, but slow down and really think about what makes a difference, right? And when your sellers are confident and are seen as peers and trusted advisors, ah, my goodness, sales get so much easier.
Right. I know. I know.
Crazy, huh? Crazy. All right, so we've got down the new logos. We've talked a bit about retention. Let's talk about growth and how do we really in, a turbulent economy, get our existing customers to grow, buy more from us, right?
Yep.
So that they can continue to grow. And I think part of that is mindset too. It's like in a tough economy, you want to kind of buckle down and cut costs, and people get this mindset around it instead of versus like, wow, what are the opportunities here if we didn't just cut and hunker down? Like, what could we do? So, how do we help our customers, our existing customers, grow?
Yeah, so the number one thing that I always go back to is, this all goes back to behaviors and what's the quality of the conversations you're having. We gotta make sure that we've got maybe an account map of our clients, right? Who are the influencers, who are the detractors, who are the supporters, and understand everybody on that primary team that's using the services, but being inquisitive and going in with a plan on a regular basis, focused on exactly what you said earlier, Alice, which is, what do we need to do to help that customer be more successful? And if things that we offer would help them be more successful, we are doing them a disservice if we don't bring them up. And so many salespeople just are happy that they've got what they have, and they think that they're going to be asking, oh, I keep going back to the well, I keep asking for too much, and it's all up here in their head, as opposed to focusing on the mission, which is I need to do everything I can to help that customer be as successful as possible. And if they're not using this service of ours or this feature, then I'm letting them down. So it starts with the right attitude. And obviously that starts at the top of the house with the CEO too.
Oh my gosh, Gretchen, 100%. And I think sometimes salespeople do tell themselves a story in their head that is not a true story, right? But when we plan, when we
Right.
make a strategy and we plan, so we take our list of customers and we think about each one of them. Again, we have to slow down to do this, right? We think about each one of these customers and what they're doing in the marketplace, how they're positioned, what's happening in their industry, and how we could help them be even more successful, right? Then we're coming to them with value. We're coming to them to help them instead of to sell them something. Just completely different. And I think sellers are right. They shouldn't call one more time to sell something. They're right. That
Right.
should not be done. They should go forward with an opportunity, value. How can we help you do these things? These are the features you're not using, or these are the tools of ours you haven't purchased yet that could help you be even better at what you're doing, right? But we can't do that if we don't quietly sit still and think and make a strategy and then make a plan to deploy that strategy. Yes, it takes time, but I mean, apply 10 or 15 minutes to each of your customers to think about these things. And if you truly cannot think of any way to add value or to help them grow and be better, then you shouldn't be calling them to sell them something, right? So, my goodness, that mindset is clear. And I think the CEOs do it to the salespeople sometimes by like forcing them call every single customer and sell them more, right? Or upsell them this, or here's a sale, give them a deal, right? And it just undermines everything that we've been trying to get our sellers to do. So sales leaders, help your CEOs calm down, right? By making sure they know that you have a plan with your team to approach each customer with some value that will help them be even better. And that's what's going to happen. We don't need a deal to do that. We don't need, some special. We just need to think clearly about how we can help each customer.
Yep, you're exactly right, and I suspect that there are some situations out there where we don't know exactly what the goals are of our customers. I would like to believe that, we know our customers inside and out, and we know exactly what their goals are, short term, long term, et cetera. And we might not. So we might feel hamstrung by, well, I can't bring anything of value to the table that if I don't know. So we just have to encourage the salespeople to start the conversation and say, I love you as a customer. We're really excited to help you, but I'd really like to reset and find out, okay, what are your goals for this year and what are your goals for the next 3 years and 10 years? And because I'd like to make sure that we help you get there if at all possible. It's actually a great place to start. And, what better timing than in January to make
Yeah.
calls and find out, right?
And do a little research before you start, right? So a lot of companies, especially if they're public companies, the president or CEO will put out a message to everyone about, the new year and what their goals are and what they're going to do, right? I mean, so it's not that hard with the internet today to find out quite a bit. And I love to send people little clips of stuff I find about their own company. Hey, I see your CEO said blah blah blah, or oh, I see you have a new CRO, CEO, CFO. But dig around and do your research before you call them to have those conversations. So again, you're more of a peer and a trusted advisor because you can bring in insights because you've already got some information. And if you do a little research on their industry, you can say, gosh, I was just reading the industry trends for your industry. I'm curious how that's going to impact you and how it's going to change your plan for the year, right? But sellers don't typically have those kinds of conversations. So it makes it, something that, again, we have to teach them and model for them. And I think this is where senior executives can be of great help. I mean, today, you and I both believe that selling is a team sport. No salesperson goes out there on their own, right? To slay the dragons. That doesn't happen. So this is a great place to bring in a subject matter expert, a senior person at the company, even the CEO when appropriate, right? To bring in some of that CEO confidence that's needed to have those higher level conversations about what, your customer's truly trying to accomplish and how you can help them do it.
Yeah, and I would say that if, CEOs are going out on, sales calls or, participating in sales conversations, that, where they can really have a big impact is, requiring a plan before the call. So they know what role they're gonna play, and what we don't want them to do is take over the sales call. What
Right.
right?
Salespeople hate that. CEOs don't do it, but also don't go into the call blind. Do what Gretchen's telling you and plan ahead. The salesperson should call you. So if they've scheduled for a call with a customer, you say, "Oh, great, where's our planning meeting?" And don't go into that
Exactly.
call without it.
Yep, exactly. And and the other piece about growing existing customers, depending on the complexity of the customer that, you're dealing with, there might be different divisions. There might be completely different teams of decision makers at the customer that you might be working with, team A, but you're not working with team B. So use your relationships to get referrals to team B. Right? So it's the same as trying to add new customers.
Absolutely. So much growing that can be done. But then also, some of your customers are going to be just fine where they are. So just make sure they're supremely happy and really successful using what you've sold them. Gretchen, the time has flown by. I knew it would. I'm not surprised at all. But a couple of things as we part ways today. Just go ahead and summarize really what you believe CEOs should focus on going into 2024 so that they have a great year no matter what the economy decides to do. And then, of course, I
Yeah.
want to ask you a little bit about your book and where everyone can find that and find you. So, 2024, what do CEOs really need to pay attention to make sure they thrive?
They really need to focus on the sales leaders having a plan of attack regardless of what the economy is. And if results were great in 2023, wonderful. What is the team going to do? They need to challenge the team to focus on what they can do even more to continue to grow. Don't let them rest on their laurels. Sure, celebrate the successes, but don't let them rest on their laurels. So they need to focus on a plan. And if 2023 didn't go exactly as we liked, then it's a perfect time also to say, what are you going to do differently? And that thought process applies to asking sales leaders, okay, so what are you going to do if the economy is, massive? Do we need to change goals? If the economy goes gangbusters, then what more can you do? Because what we don't want is just to, kill a quota because the economy took care of it. And if the economy stays too flat or goes down, what is their plan? What are they going to do differently to adjust to that? Since the economy was, pretty robust over the last year or so.
Yeah, yeah,
That would be the
absolutely. All
main
right,
thing
where
that they
can
need to
people
do. And pay attention to, it's part skill set, it's part mindset.
Yes, definitely part skill set, part mindset, but also think about the type of skills they need now versus what they might have needed before, right? It's definitely going to be different if we want them to level
Yep.
up to that level of peer or partner. Um, Fantastic. So tell me, where can people find you, and tell us a little bit about your book and who should read it?
Yeah. So braveheartsales.com is our website, or you can find us at thehappysalesmanager.com, which is the book website. The book can be purchased there. There's a workbook that goes along with it that is free to download, and it also can be found on Amazon. So I wrote the book, and it came out this fall specifically to provide an easy read roadmap for sales leaders, either first time sales leaders or sales leaders who are frustrated that things aren't going as well as they'd like, or it was harder. It's a harder job than they thought it was going to be because they were a great salesperson, and this isn't the same as being a salesperson. And also founder owners that might still be leading the sales team, to really give them the toolkit to know what they need to do from a tactical skill standpoint, and also how to focus and have the right mindset to excel at their job. So really to be able to drive sales and lead their team with ease and have fun doing it.
Oh gosh, I love that. Lead their team with ease and have fun doing it. Get the book, right? And give it to your sales leaders. Oh, thank you. And I love your little happy face. There you go. There's the book. And your happy face on your sweater. I love it. And thank you so much for being on the show today. I could talk with you for hours about this. And I know people are really going to enjoy this topic and get a lot from it.
Thank you so much. It was fun. It was really fun, Alice. I appreciate it.
If you enjoyed the show, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next week.